This is pretty cool. This is my biggest strategy. I think everybody got it.
Okay.
I think that's last one. Yeah. I think they just left that.
All right, it is 6:30. Let's call this meeting to order. I want to welcome the crowd tonight. It's always good to have guests. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Have a second? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. Passed. Open forum. Going for open forum. Okay, I have a motion to approve the consent agenda. We did this last time, and I don't actually have to do that. We do. All right. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Second,
I'll second.
all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same. Motion carries. I have a motion to approve, well, any corrections on the, or discussion on the open session minutes? Had none. Have a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
A motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, right hand. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Transfer and payment of bills. Were there any questions on the bills?
I had a couple, and I don't know if, I was gonna ask, in the activity accounts, there's some transactions. Do we have, when we pay with a credit card, I assume it's the one that it says BMO MasterCard, but then there's some stuff that says like Walmart Community. Do we have like a Walmart card too, or?
Could that be a Sam's Club card, maybe?
It's probably a Walmart online order.
Okay. It said GEMB, and so I was just trying to figure out what the difference was.
Mhm.
And then it looked like we had some returns that were some sort of fraudulent.
Yes. Last month card for every charge on it was fraudulent. So I called the company, shut it down. We're not held accountable. And that particular card, we had problems with 2 months in a row with it. So when they issued that card, they have given me a PIN number that the staff person will have to know that PIN number to use that card.
I think I asked a question on an oven or something, and then
Yeah, we did the oven purchase that we did for the kitchen, and then another question regarding some tuition. So we have several students that obviously can't speak about those particular details here, but we pay tuition to other school districts to provide some type of service to students that reside within our community. And then the third item you had asked about was actually a line in the bills that just gave the cumulative total of an Amazon purchase. So it was a sum or total, but that wasn't associated with any particular item. It was associated with a list of items that were itemized above it. I think that one was maybe 38, 32, 53 or something like that, or 32, 52, 53.
all right. Only other thing caught my eye is you're buying a projector. I've probably got 100 projectors across the street because we've done away with all projectors and gone to big screens. So next time you need a projector, yell at me and I might be able to set you up.
Last week first was one of these, that's a bright link ones about short throw one, short goes right over the board.
There was a short throw one and then there was another one too. I think you were buying 2 projectors.
Yeah, we could always use computer projectors.
I like your price.
We can figure that out. I don't know if they'd have to go up or not, but I bet we can figure out a way to surplus them. All right, can I get a motion to approve the transfer payment of bills?
I'll move to approve the transfer payment of bills.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion? See none, raise your right hand for yes. No, the same. We approve the transfer payment of bills. Bob, superintendent report.
So outside of what I had sent you in my report, I'll kind of generally separate that into several prominent sections, the first of which being culture, climate, and relationships. So just coming in, as a matter of coming in July, I've had pretty limited staff interaction. Folks are at home getting rested and relaxed for the next school year. So most of it's been with custodial maintenance, board staff. And I've been really lucky. We have Mrs. Sassman that has come on board, and she doesn't start till August 1, but she has already started on the work and been working on next school year for several weeks, along with Coach Minix and then Tracy Kingsley also. So while they're not on contract, we have spent a fair amount of time planning and communicating and interacting. So that's been really good for us. We're going to have our first, what I call an ALT, Advanced Leadership Team, informal meeting the end of this week, where I'm going to have the leadership staff come over for dinner, and we'll just start to develop a sense of identity as a team. So that'll be this Friday. Personnel and staffing, we still do have some teaching openings, specifically choir director / elementary music. You guys are aware of why we decided to split that out, open to get applicants. We also have a high school business and then a middle school, high school PE opening. We have a plan should our current circumstance be the condition that we enter into the school with, where we'll be able to provide all those services to students, granted less than ideal circumstances. But we're considering a few different options. I have a choir director lead that'll at least get our high school and middle school choir groups and ensembles, a director in front of them, and then we'll have to cover our elementary music. We do still have some coach openings, junior high basketball, esports, track assistant, baseball assistant, girls basketball assistant, softball assistant, and a football assistant. It's just plainly, it's a lack of applicants. And we're continuing to make calls there to see what we can drum up. We do have a custodian and paraprofessional opening, as well as we're still looking for substitutes. In the area of instruction and learning, we should be receiving our MSIP data here pretty soon. So as soon as I can get access to that, I'll begin working through that in preparation of our first ALT meetings, where we can begin planning for our presentation to not just you guys as the board, but our staff as well, and developing instructional goals and plans for next year. In the area of professional development, we'll begin working on those needs as an ALT as they come on board. We'll be using our MSIP data to guide a lot of that. There'll be a focus in a combination of external professional development and internal. I strongly believe in taking advantage of the experts that we have here on campus. When we have those experts on campus, I call it teachers teaching teachers. But we do have quite a few people that haven't been to an external PD, and we don't have that knowledge, within the district, some of them for their entire tenure. So we'll be looking at those options also. For me, in terms of my professional development, went to the first DESE meeting now the week before last. Have our first Show Me conference meeting this week, and I've been working quite a bit with our local superintendents to get integrated into the Show Me conference. Facilities, we're working through an audit right now. We do have quite a few systems that are lacking some maintenance, so I'm working with our maintenance team now. And then, of course, you guys know we had posted that maintenance position in hopes of getting caught up and getting everything in great shape. We'll talk in a few minutes on the discussion items about HVAC, and then I'm working through our cleaning and maintenance schedules with our supervisor, Mr. Smith. Athletics and fine arts, choir and band is still a focus. We'll be looking to do a little bit of a patchwork there with Mr. Smith taking on both, should we not have a choir director that we're able to put in that position. And then we'll be working with new staff as they come on board. Budget and finance, I'm working through the budget process. with the ALT as they come on board. That'll be a little bit different for them, but they will have quite a bit of training from me. And then I'll farm that out as necessary through DESE or NASA trainings. Doing a little bit of investigation, seeing every budget has its own personality, when it spends, how it spends, and its movement. So I'm taking a hard look at it, trying to compare what we've done in previous years to what we plan to do this year, but we're still in pretty good shape. One area in particular, when we accepted the actual budget from July, I think we had about $87,000 in surplus. So that's about 1.11% that'll move into our fund balance eventually. And then, as you guys know, as part of this meeting, we're looking forward to setting the tax levy here at our next board meeting.
All right, very good. Any questions? All right, seeing none. Discussion items. Number 1, fall baseball. I think we'll open that up, Bob, if you want to maybe give us a little bit of give us your thoughts, and then we as a board can discuss it.
Firstly, I think we need to do anything where we can support our programs, where young people can have an opportunity to engage as much as possible. I always kind of use that as a guidepost. And quite honestly, I am probably a baseball fan in my adult life way more than I've ever been a football fan. So I tend to kind of parse this out practically. And so a few things that have been weighing on me, as you can imagine, as soon as I was announced as the incoming superintendent, fall baseball actually became a part of my life, the discussion for or against. So I've had a lot of opportunities and a lot of conversations. So a couple of thoughts. So football has been established as an existing program. A lot of the conversations that I have in the community with parents and players, sometimes I get the feeling that we're still kind of teetering on the whether or not baseball or football is going to be a thing. But I think we've got to firmly establish that from here on outward, we have a football program that we have a vested interest in seeing it is successful. And so we can't just not think about that. But when thinking about baseball, we also have a really established baseball program. And so for me, it comes down to, I've used this metaphor with a couple people and it tends to resonate. And again, this is a practical thought. So if we're eating dinner and we have a buffet of food and baseball has been to the buffet and they've eaten once, and we've got football that's fixing their plates, we've got to think practically about how we send baseball back to the buffet before football is able to kind of to settle out its plate. If we had an unlimited amount of resources, then I don't think that would be as big of a question, but we do have a finite amount of resources. I don't think many, if any, baseball players are going to play football for us this year, in all honesty, maybe one or two. And I think there's a myriad of reasons for that. I think part of it is contact sports aren't for everybody. Being a multiple sport athlete isn't for everybody. But I think it would be naive to believe, just based on my discussions, that this issue is influencing whether some kids play and some don't. I think some kids are playing because it's gotten so much attention. I'm talking about football. I think some aren't because it's gotten so much attention. So I do think it's weighing on kids. So a couple of things. Do we feel comfortable with the buffet metaphor? I think we've got to consider, if we're going to take a phasing out route, kind of a one more year of fall baseball, we've got to ask ourselves the question, will we be in any different situation next year than we are this year? We'll still have passionate students that want to play baseball as much as they can. I get that. I'd pay a lot of money to go back and play a high school baseball game. What a time it was. We'll still have very passionate parents that want to see fall baseball again. We had some success there. I tend to shy away from causality, but we have had some success there in the year that we had fall baseball. So I'd ask myself, and you'd provide your own answer to this question, what if we have another year of very successful fall baseball? That may or may not be directly relative to having fall ball, but what if we go deep in the spring? Will that make next year's decision any easier or more difficult than now? I'm not sure, but I do know that I've made a lot of calls to people who know a lot more than me, coaches that have been in the game for 20 and 30 years. People, I always call people smarter than I am. And they would 100% agree that based on our resources, and I'm not just talking about money, I'm talking about the number of kids we have, the size of our school district, we would be a very rare bird having fall baseball and football. We just don't have the athletes or the size, the scale to really accommodate both, but we have both. And so we've got to make a decision that makes every possible way that our students can engage in extracurricular activities possible. So do we kick the can is the big question. And if we do, what's our return on investment? Not making a decision one way or another. I don't know if that's what you were asking, but that's what I've been thinking about.
Or thoughts?
Where will they practice and play? Because I thought that I thought someone said the city wasn't going to let them use the city park.
I don't know that specifically, but I think Coach Campbell's got a plan for that. Just based on what he's expressed to me, I think he's interested in making it happen one way or another.
Just ask a question.
I think he's gonna clarify that.
Okay.
Do you have a clarification on that? Jason?
We can use the city park. And if there is a cost, parents are gonna cover it.
Okay.
But I was told there will be no cost.
Yes.
My thoughts on this. There are a lot of sports stars out there that played a variety of sports when they were younger. And I think schools when they offer a variety of sports to students, they greatly increase the chances that a student is going to find something they like doing and something they're good at doing. And one of the benefits to adding football, though there are costs and there have been other concerns with the limited resources that we have at our school, but our goal should be to get every student engaged in some sort of physical activity, some sort of physical education, some sort of extracurricular activity that has great benefits for students. And I think that we should prioritize making sure that we have coaches and resources in place to make sure that we have a regular season for each team. And we should prioritize that over having a second season for any sport. And honestly, for any sport, it's going to take time in the summer. It's going to take time in the off season. And most parents and students find ways to put in that time or find other opportunities to play with a traveling team or a club team. And it doesn't have to be school sponsored. That's kind of my position on it.
I'll be honest, I'm kind of torn. I feel like I've heard two different sides of this from every which way. And having a child that is going to play football and was playing baseball, he's kind of stepped back because of football and just because I think it's not his forte, but that's just for him. I guess, I hear no other sport offers a second season. But I think the confusion there, at least for me, is that there are other teams doing items outside of school, which to me confuses the public that there is a second season. Is that wrong, right? Like basketball. I know that they were doing a lot over the summer where they were meeting together. I think it was almost thought of as a school-sponsored event, but I'm hearing it wasn't a school-sponsored event. It was, the coach was rallying up the kids and getting them to, be a team, but it wasn't through like NISHA. So I think that, go ahead, Brett, if you have clarifying, go ahead. 'Cause I
No,
don't
it's
know.
under the guise of mission guidelines of how you can go ahead and coach your kids in the off season. And you're gonna get your 20 contact days and coach, you can clarify anything I mess up here, but like you get 20 contact days where our school personnel can coach our school team. You know what I mean? So that's what that is.
Okay.
He's taking them to tournaments and games and stuff like that.
But it's not tournaments held by other schools
It is, but
necessarily,
it's
or-
just simply part of everybody's summer program.
So I guess my
It's-
question would be, is there something of an opportunity there for baseball? I mean, I don't want to
Yes.
take away an
Yes, there is.
opportunity for
I mean-
kids not to have a sport that they want to enjoy and get involved in.
Baseball gets the same 20 contact days
Mm.
that the coach can work with the kids. Absolutely positive. And that the coach should work with the kids. I would like to say that.
Right.
That's what we ought to have. We ought to have all our people putting in that time. So yes, that does extend to baseball as well in their leagues. And then we have had anyway. I mean, like we've had parents get our baseball team together this summer to play games in leagues.
So if the baseball coach chose to do something similar to that, where it wasn't necessarily sponsored through the school, but it was offered,
Right.
I mean,
That's.
is that something that could be considered long-term?
That's
I mean,
what-
for me personally, it's all about the kids.
That's what
In
folks
the
do.
past, they did, but in our circumstances, we've had the last few years where we've lost our baseball coach every year. It's kind of gotten mixed up and messed up. And so they haven't had contact the last 2 summers because there was a new coach coming in. So he didn't start, then the one coach wanted to have fall ball. That's the only time we've ever had it was last fall or whichever that was. We've only had it the one time. So this would be the second season of fall ball.
But if it wasn't a school-sponsored event, couldn't other individuals assist with coaching it, or does it have to
Well,
be?
yeah, I mean, there's nobody
Right.
can.
So I guess I'm just saying, I'm torn both ways. I want kids to stay involved. I want them to stay active. I feel like if they're doing that, their grades are better. They grow up to be better, responsible adults. I mean, there's so many different benefits. But I agree. I mean, if there is not any other sport right now for Lynn that's offering that opportunity, then why are we giving the benefit to baseball versus no others? I don't know. I hate to take something away that they love, but I also feel like they should have an opportunity to do more if they want to. I don't know that I have an answer.
Art, do you have any comments?
I've talked to several parents about this. And I just am not really I never was too keen on a sport having 2 seasons. I guess I have a few questions myself, and that would be, what are the, I don't know him, I haven't met our new baseball coach, but what exactly are his thoughts on it? And then I know that there's a limit to how many male and female sports that we can have, and we're not jeopardizing anything in that, are we? I don't know if we have too many male, or you can't have more male sports than female sports, correct? And so
We're
that's
tied because we have volleyball. That makes it legit.
okay.
In fact, we have volleyball and like nothing. No extra.
No male sport
No
until
theoretical,
football.
it's not like we don't have wrestling. You know what I mean? Something like that.
Okay.
That's why.
And then what is?
I think it's a special circumstance because it's an extension of the season, so they never know that.
Okay. What is the new coach's, Mr. Campbell, what are his thoughts on it?
So most of his thoughts were in the letter that we included in the board packet. But essentially, he advocated that in his first year, it would help him a great deal to have a transition year where he had fall baseball to kind of get the program set before the actual spring season. But he was very adamant that would be a one and done, that fall baseball, as long as he would be here, would not be in perpetuity. It would be one and done, special circumstance, and only get to give him some spool up time, so to speak, to get the program where he'd like it to be going into the spring season.
Even if we don't have a regular fall season, he could potentially still meet with students or have those contact days or practice times that you're talking about, correct? Like have a camp or something. like that.
He can meet mission guidelines in the fall with regard to his contact with the kids. It is different than the summer. If they've changed, it's not what's referred to as contact days anymore, but the answer is yes. There's a certain number of hours a week you can meet with the kids. That's the way it's spelled out. But the answer is yes. I mean, you're right. There's no question he can. There's no question he can work those kids in before he starts coaching junior high basketball in October.
For discussion purposes, and I think this is important, if it is an option, then Coach Campbell's already behind in planning and establishing practice times and a schedule. Considering his other coaching duties, he will need to be ready for that. So it
He's
is,
coaching basketball.
yes, junior high basketball.
Those seasons don't overlap.
But, well, you can move them around a little bit. I think it overlaps by less than a week right now. It's doable.
Games or just practice.
Yeah,
Games actually overlap, so practice. are
Yeah,
gonna be
3, yeah.
4 week
yeah, it was
overlap.
practice.
You basically don't.
That doesn't sound great.
I mean,
It's not ideal, and we don't have another junior high basketball coach, which is what we were planning to, in terms of taking care of all that responsibility. At one point, we had 2 and now we have an opening there. So he does not have backup that we did even a month, 6 weeks ago.
I'm okay with doing it this year. Because of the circumstances and then needing to get to. Coach needs to get to them. But I agree that it's not fair that the other teams don't have a second season. I mean, they all get it done in the summer, and in this case, that wasn't possible. Like, well, next summer, they could do this. Or something.
I'm not personally convinced that having one more season of at least that solves anything, considering we have coaching issues, we have resource issues. I don't even know how we would practically do it, and then next year we're going to be having the same discussion again.
Other thoughts? I could definitely see for the students, the difficulty there, and that they did it last year. We had a good run. I don't know that Bob was kind of implying that did that cause the run or not cause the run or have any impact whatsoever. I'm more of a multi-sport. From everything, my little bit of research on it, everything I've read says coaches and everybody else, they all say multi-sport. Don't play one sport, don't play one sport. So kind of lean towards more what I think what I would consider the experts say on it. That, and I do say, when we have football this fall, I think we get on board 100% and support football. And when baseball comes around, we all get on board and 100% support baseball. I really think that that's a clear message that I hope the entire district will send. It was exciting to drive in tonight and see those. I don't know how many kids were out there playing club football, but there was a boatload of kids out there. So there were a boatload of them out there. So that was exciting for me to see. So with that, I'll entertain a motion. What shall the motion be in this case? We do nothing, but it does seem like we probably need to have a vote and move one way or the other on this.
I don't know that we can do nothing, considering if we're not making a decision that leaves the program and Coach Campbell in limbo, where he doesn't really have any structure to plan one way or another. It puts him in a very difficult position.
So I would think the motion would be, do we hire Coach Campbell to be fall baseball coach? That closed session, but we could definitely do that here. And if we vote no to hire him as fall baseball coach, I think that ends it.
Vote to hire personnel.
Yeah.
Don't think we can.
No, sir, Robbie, it's personnel matter.
personnel. I think you could do it, but I just think you can do it in closed. But I
You're
think you
implying-
probably could.
Yeah, you're implying one or the other should you take a vote to have a season
So let's
or
do-
not.
You could deal with the program, so
So I think let's do the motion. Do we have fall baseball?
that's, you can do that.
I make a motion that we don't have baseball this fall.
What's the motion? Don't? Did you say
Not-
that?
That we do not have. fall
Okay.
Would it be cleaner to do that we do? Because if we don't, well, I guess, okay, I'll go either way. Either
So
way, the
if
result
we're-
is the
And
same.
if someone else wants to make a different motion.
I think if we're making a motion, we're going to follow the guidance based on what Coach Campbell had, which would be his support right now of having a fall baseball season for one additional year or for this remaining year.
I think we should, I do like the idea of expanding that motion to say one existing year and we don't have to do this again next fall. And that this would be the year and you'd say after which there will be no more fall baseball.
But
And then it's passed and done.
practically speaking, just because we have it for one more year, can we actually, does he have the time to actually do it? Like, I get that in theory, it'd be great to do one more season, but practically speaking, does that even work with him coaching basketball?
It's gonna be difficult, I can't lie. Is it possible? Absolutely, but we're gonna have to be very creative on how we cover our coaching duties, because right now, like the long list of assistants that we don't have. One of either our girls or our boys junior high basketball coach, one or the other is Coach Campbell, and the other we don't have. And so it
Yeah.
is,
The cleanest thing to do is to make a motion to do away with fall baseball.
Which is
That's
not-
the-
That's my motion.
That to me is in my opinion, that ought to be that. I don't, you have to say it again.
I
No,
think
if
you've
someone
made the
wants to
motion.
second it, they can, or if they want to make a different one, they can.
The motion is doing away with fall baseball.
That's my motion, yes.
Do I have a second?
I guess I'll second so that we can take a vote.
Further discussion? Have a motion and second to end fall baseball.
I'm just gonna say regardless of what the outcome is, that if we want someone to stay and if we want them to take ownership of this, no matter what, I feel like this person needs to come in here and do what they can to keep it together, to make it a team, to make it successful, regardless of what gets decided tonight. No matter what, we're not giving up on baseball, even if it goes or if it doesn't go. And we're not saying football is better than baseball. I don't feel like we should ever be comparing the two, even though it is up for discussion, but I just think if this coach is going to be successful, if he's going to make it last, then no matter what, he's going to have to try to figure out ways to make it happen. He's got a lot stacked against him. Personally, I feel like.
Further discussion?
I have a question. So are we going to, does he get a stipend for fall baseball as well?
he would,
Should we
should we?
go down that? Yeah.
Okay.
But how would that work if he's doing baseball and basketball at the same time? But the conflict between practices and games.
Well, I would imagine we're gonna have a conflict with basketball anyway, because we only have 2 gyms. With boys and girls, high school and junior high all playing at the same time. It's gonna be a mess. Somebody, I would imagine he would have to do it, the junior high will get stuck with early in the morning. And baseball would be in the afternoon.
Further discussion?
So now,
All right, let's do a roll call vote on this one. Start, Brett,
Motion on the floor is doing away with fall baseball.
and in baseball.
I am enough.
Jamie?
On this, but I'm actually gonna have to say yes.
On it?
Yes.
Naomi?
No.
Mark?
Yes.
All right, the yeses have it. Fall baseball has ended. All right, next up. HVAC update.
So basically, we have a supply chain issue for our HVAC for areas 2 and 3. I'll let our gentleman managing the project go a little bit deeper into that. But for us as a school district and as an admin team, we're looking at the possibility of not necessarily not having air conditioning to start the school year in zones 2 and 3, which is elementary upstairs and downstairs. But it'll still be cooler. It won't be hot, but we're going to have to figure out how to complete that construction and repair during the school year, most likely based off our current assessment of when we might receive parts for the repair. We can do that. We can be successful and we can win in those conditions. Unfortunately, we'll just have an under construction portion of our campus while we're starting the school year. For the technical aspects of that, I would defer to Corey.
Not how I wanted to come back. But I brought with me Ray Hagan, our mechanical contractor, and True Engineering, our mechanical engineer, so that we get really depth into detail if we need to. But we're not talking about large equipment. We're not talking about piping. We're talking about a couple of valves. There's 13 of them right now, 12 of one size and one of a different size. Unfortunately, these are specialized valves for the type of system you have for VRF, for the variable refrigerant. They've got done with the admin office all the way up to the classroom. That's 100% done, turned over back to the school. So that portion's done. Our engineers came through and done some destructive testing, took apart some stuff and ensured some quality, and we put it back together. So that section is turned over and back to you guys. As Bob mentioned, the classroom section, there's 2 zones. Upper and level are on one zone, one half, one zone, the second half. Right now, the contractor has gone through and started put the piping above ceiling to try to prep and wait for these valves to come in. They're doing that at some additional cost to themselves because now they have to do 2 mobilizations. Normally they would have came through and demoed the old pipe, put the new pipe up at the same time. So they're kind of working with us and helping us out there. We do have a supplemental air system coming in here. It's called a DOA. It's a direct outside air, kind of brings in that fresh air for the building. That will kind of temper those rooms. And we put a plan in place that these valves come in a little later, and we need to do this work after hours, after the students leave. We can work a second shift. We'll shut down one zone at a time, so we don't shut down the whole building. We'll shut down half the building, so one half is still cooling. We can help kind of circulate that air, and then we can bring that fresh air from outside, still pumping into each of these rooms to temper the spaces. They're not going to be to the temperatures we're used to, so they will be a hair warmer, especially if we have some 100-degree days. But we're really going to wait and see when these valves come in, and if this needs to wait a little bit into September or whatever we need to do, we'll work around that schedule, work around that weather as best we can. But right now we're at the mercy of getting these valves, and these valves are coming from Malaysia. Yep. It's not a.
So are they in the container or are they still in Malaysia?
We
Don't know.
We've been getting answers and none of them have been. Right now, we can't plan anything until right here. We've been here, it's good, you're gonna have them in 2 weeks since the end of May. So, you know, we got to the close to July and we were starting to get scared, you know, what's going on, where's the parts? And that's when they quit saying, we don't know. Don't tell me 2 weeks anymore, we don't know. So we were supposed to have 4 more in this week. They didn't show up. So like Corey said, we're gonna work with y'all with Mr. James there as well. And we still hope to have it up, but that is really just hope to have it up by the time school starts. If we don't have it up in that time frame, then we're gonna work nights and do whatever we have to do to accommodate you all still having school and try to make it work.
What's a little bit warmer on a 100-degree day?
80 degrees. So still tempered air. Not ideal, not what you would want, but
To give you an idea of timelines also, it's about 2 weeks ship time. So once we just get confirmation, it's about 2 weeks. And if we don't mobilize, we have about 3 weeks of work, Andy, would you say?
yeah, I
About
would
3.
say right now, so Sam's running this project for Rehagen Heating and Cooling for us. If everything comes in this week or even next week, we would still hope to have you all fully operational by the time school starts. But they have to, the ref nets is what the part is. They have to get here in order for us to do that. And of course, we're basically doing stuff now that is not financially beneficial to us by any means. We're basically doing stuff twice to try to make the turnover when we do have it quicker. So if we're doing everything we can, if anybody has any questions, feel free to fire away. But that's the gist of it.
Impact.
From an engineering standpoint, there's not a substitute.
Well, and that's, I wanted to clarify that. So these particular parts are manufactured by the equipment manufacturer that was, we're reusing the existing equipment that was from the original construction. And there are no alternate manufacturers that we would be able to source and maintain the manufacturer.
To give you an idea, the impact on environment, we're talking anywhere where work is occurring, we would leave those ceiling tiles out. So you would just be able to look overhead and see some of that mechanical work. And then we would leave the covering on the floor, kind of like the thick paper cardboard covering would stay taped down anywhere underneath where they were doing that work. Outside of a difference in air temperature of about 80 degrees, that's the impact on this school day or the environment.
And when we say leaving ceiling tiles out, we're not leaving a whole room out. We're leaving a line down the road to the piece of equipment. So it'll be a line from the center of this room down.
Sounds educational. You're gonna come in and give them a lesson on
See
HVAC.
what's above the ceiling.
Exactly. How many of us went to school without air conditioning? Yeah, all right. We'll be all right. Very good. Any questions? Appreciate you all coming in tonight. I mean, it's just the world we live in right now. I know I've got a country club or building up a country club that doesn't have an electrical panel in it. That's gonna open hopefully about a month from today.
Fortunately, it only sounds like things are gonna get worse. So watching.
Everything else as far as what's going on so far, it's gone okay though.
So you'll have 5 systems basically, if you want to break it out that way. But by tomorrow, we'll have 3 out of the 5. The 2 remaining ones that will be left, which we label systems 2 and 3, should take 2 weeks to have up and running, 3 weeks to have wrapped up.
How great for those kids.
K-5 will be in there.
Unfortunately, all the system touches is those kids and then the admin. And we started in the admin because there was summer school going on. So we worked our way out until summer school was over.
And we have those parts.
And we have the DOAS, and then we'll set up some pretty big fans, and I think it's area 1, the elementary admin area. I mean, we'll blow as much of that conditioned air down there to those kids as we can get down there. So it won't be unbearably hot, but it won't be as cool.
From the cafeteria as well.
Yeah, cafeteria.
Well, honestly, it's probably not gonna be any different than it was this time last year when it didn't work right, so.
Right.
But what we don't want to do, and we've conversed about this, is put 3 of them together and pull off when you all start school. And then you all still have 2 systems that are subpar, not repiped. And we have to come in and put all the tape down, remobilize. I think it'd just be best for everybody to keep us, do what we have to do to move on. And close the project out as quickly and painlessly as we can for everybody. So.
We get closer to students come back in the building. We'll set up a walk at Rehagen and with your admin staff and kind of go through and make sure we have a nice logistics plan in place. Some of that floor protection, I agree, the main areas in the hallways, but maybe we pull it out of the classrooms. So we spread the desk back out. We don't have to worry about shuffling over that stuff and see what those risks are, but we'll walk through that and it's not going to be a nightmare for your students and your staff to come back. We're going to walk through and have a plan in place for everyone. Fortunately, that plan needs to be developed once we get closer, because we don't know if we're gonna have parks or not yet.
How long are you thinking that flooring's gonna remain down? I mean, should worst case scenario, we don't hear from
1
them?
week, the same thing. This, it depends on when the parks come in.
I'm just thinking
Parks
kids and
come in.
dirty feet and sickness and, I mean,
I mean, if we need to take it all up and just discuss what is the risk of taking it up, I mean, those floors are waxed. They've got a good coat of wax on them, so they can take a little abuse. And it just may be next summer when you guys have to come through and strip or re-wax them. And then we'll do it again. It's just understanding some of those risks associated.
It just, we don't want to tear it up, then have to take time to put it down, and that costs us time. And we should be putting stuff above the ceiling and getting you guys back into AC.
is it something maintenance could easily fix for them? Should there be an accident or?
I'm sure we can.
We'll leave it up to you all to figure it out. All right.
Tracy, being the elementary principal, are there any questions that you
One
have?
question we were discussing back here was what happens if it doesn't come in? At what point are you saying this isn't gonna happen now? And what's, you know, you kind of a timeline? that you
So
say,
obviously, if we get to the middle of August and we don't have anything in yet, then we'll have to talk again. But we were talking about at that point in time, working nights to get the work done and get AC back on for y'all as quickly. as we can.
But right now, if it doesn't show up, your AC is running.
Yeah, you're right.
We've made sure nothing's shut down right now. Everything's
Everything
operational.
will continue to run until the parts come in.
Yes,
Then we'll shut it down.
Yep.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
what I
we
was talking
refuse to go past that point until we knew we had parts.
Right.
about. Gotcha.
All right. Well, again, appreciate y'all coming in. It shows a commitment to keeping the customer happy, which we do appreciate that.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Cory.
Thank you.
Milk and lunch prices. What do we do with milk and lunch prices?
Just real quick, this a discussion item. You actually approved the new lunch prices back in the April board meeting. The only addition to that is a slight change in milk prices. Our milk price vendor is Christie
Prairie Farm.
Prairie Farm. So we went from 30 to 35 cents last year, and just due to increased vendor costs, we're looking at going from 35 cents to 40 cents this coming year. So we're in pretty good shape there. That's the only change. School lunch prices will remain as they were approved in April. Just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that.
Is that the milk that, like, if they bought extra milk, it's 40 cents?
Yes.
An extra milk, otherwise it's included with their meal.
Nothing to vote on there.
No, that was just a discussion item. Relevant to that, though, Krista and I were talking about a grant that's available for some potential equipment to offer kids an extended breakfast kind of option there. But I also received information from Desi that we're out of compliance with our school nutrition account. So we're we're allowed to have 3 months of our average operating expense. So right now we are in the black with our school nutrition program, and we have about $32,000 that we need to spend. And we're kind of limited on what we can spend that on. It has to be within the school nutrition program. So we can buy supplies up to and including food. We can buy equipment, and we can train staff with that. And that's something that I'll work with our ALT and Krista with to figure out how we're going to spend that $32,000. And as we come up with a plan and ideas, I'll make sure that you guys know that.
Early last year, there was a lot of talk about portions or lack thereof. I mean, I didn't hear much of that discussion later in the year. Did that kind of go away, or is that still out there? It's still out there.
I can say based on my kid going, and it's still an issue, it's still a concern. I still hear a lot of community talk about how, it poor portion size, but I think you hear a lot about undercooked meat and things of that nature. But I definitely liked the idea of using this to improve some of our food services if it'll make families happier with what they're getting provided.
I think we had a board meeting where we discussed that at one point. And when I say we, I wasn't here at the time, but this sounds like an issue from last year, maybe last fall. And so I can look back at those notes, see what the feedback was, and include that in our conversations and kind of address some of those issues and concerns with how we respond.
So I wasn't at that board meeting, but I kind of got the gist of it. And it seemed to me that the direction, the discussion maybe went a different direction I would have gone. It was about how can we meet the minimum standard versus can we go over the minimum standard and give more if we're paying for it? I mean, I guess that's the question. Can we give them more food if we're willing to pay for it?
If they're willing to pay for it.
So if we have extra money, that might be a
Good
useful,
option.
a good option.
So our biggest concern last year for me that I noticed, 7th on up does not take their actual requirements they're supposed to. That's actually the person who was on the little SIS register wasn't stopping the child and saying, hey, go back and get your 3 components. So that became a big issue. That's what was being posted on Facebook. A lot of kids were posting 1 item, just not a fault measure. Okay, 3 of 5 items to go for. That became the big thing. We started upping our portion sizes like we could, we have limits. But our main concern is getting them to take those 3 items. They're not taking it. On the elementary side, we went ahead and preschool through 6. We give them everything, with the exception of 6th grade, they can decide if they don't want certain items. We just eliminated, we had a hard time with kids like telling us what they wanted, so we just put it on their training. They're in compliance. It's 7 through 12 who's not in compliance. They need to take those 3 items. And that's why they're saying we have the concern with their program. They're just not taking it. But we need to get that back where they know you have to take 3, regardless if you get it or not, you have to take it. Otherwise, we'll have to come in and it becomes a big one.
Do we ever collaborate with other schools to see how they're doing things maybe?
So
differently?
Fresh Ideas has multiple schools, so I've gone into other schools and watched them. So I've done training in that aspect. Our big problem at the beginning of the school year, what I noticed, we had a really high turnover rate for my kitchen staff. And a lot of them had never worked in the kitchen. So that became a big problem. We didn't have anybody, so we were struggling just to make food just enough to have. We didn't have anyone to help.
We were struggling with getting certain items. for
Yes,
food.
we couldn't even get, I was missing full trucks for the whole week. So I was just, that's what we got.
So they
Our
got-
commodities truck came 3 months late. So we were just like, this is what we have. So this is, a lot of items still we cannot get anymore. I might be switching vendors. That's up to Fresh Ideas right now though, but we're trying to switch vendors so we have a better line rights. We can get more stuff, but that's way low. Hopefully it's better this next year. I have a pretty good crew. We're still short 2 people, but just as what we're running, we've got a good system. By the end of the year, we had it going really good. Summer school went great, even though we're half of us got sick for half of it. So, but I think it's gotten a lot better. I haven't heard any complaints anymore. They don't always talk to me, but I haven't heard anything lately. So.
I think good thing. I mean, it sounds like you're trying to move in the right direction. We've got 3 brand new administrators that I assume have been in other schools that can put some fresh eyes on it too, and they come up with some
Absolutely.
thoughts there too. So
My question was, so I assume that the federal money that provided covered the cost of lunch for everybody is no more?
It ends the last day of September, so we still,
We need to train by the end of September, how to use the card. Nobody knows how to use the card anymore on the elementary level. So now also because of that, on the high school level, we will have to have somebody at that register for breakfast and lunch. Right now, we only have lunch and breakfast we were tallying. We were just counting trays. We can't, we only have one person on the high school side for breakfast to do dishes and serve. So she can't do dishes, serve, and scanning cards.
Sure.
It just won't work. So I think we have Phoebe who's gonna be doing that. So that should.
So do salaries impact this excess balance?
sounds like it. Sounds like our revenue will drop off.
I don't know.
It'd help
that
balance it
for
out.
certain. I don't know for certain if that part of that 32,000 surplus is because we were short. I'm not.
Figure it out. All right,
Because it's contracted, actually, I don't. Because we still pay the contract.
Yeah.
It's on them to fill out their staffing plan.
propane, I see propane here, but I don't see it on the agenda. Was I looking at the right place?
You know what, it was on the agenda, so.
I screwed up, guys.
So when I actually separated it out into discussion and action items afterwards, and I think when we did that, we may have lost our propane.
We did.
It was on the
It was on
original,
this-
it was on the original agenda.
You have
This
it.
was the first one that was.
Mhm.
So the one that was posted has it
Yes,
on it,
has
so we're-
propane.
we're in the clear on that one. Okay.
Yes,
Uh,
a little backstory on that. Just based off of Dr. Smith's notes, it looks like she actually anticipated a $2.20 per gallon propane bid was her anticipated. Our two bids came in at MFA, and now memory, because I don't have it for 190, and Farrell at 209.9 or $2.10 were our two options.
Are we MFA now? Yes. One thing to put away, unless we can't do it this way, I asked across the street what we were paying for propane, and we do 3-tier contracts. So we've got a really good deal on propane right now. So if the propane costs ever come way down again, it might be worth doing a longer term contract if that's allowable.
Sure.
We're paying,
I can look.
we're paying a fraction of what you're gonna be paying this year.
I believe we were paying 82 cents a gallon last year, so our
Yeah.
costs had more than doubled,
Yeah, we're less than that.
240%.
Yeah, but we use a lot of propane. All right, can I get a motion to approve the propane bid? Approving propane bid to MFA.
I move that we approve the propane bid, the MFA one.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Action items, set the tuition rate for 22-23.
We actually approved an increase last year from 7,500 to 8,300, an increase of $8,300. There was a formula applied to that based on my just looking at our budget and changes since that time. I wouldn't recommend at this time that we deviate from 8,300. That should cover us well. We only had one student that actually paid tuition last year in any case. So I don't see at this time a reason why we would change that rate. Our 7,500 prior to that was in place for years before actually updating it last year. I doubt we'll find the need or have a need to update it anytime in the next couple of years, but it'll continue to be an annual item for us to take a look at.
Discussion?
I move we set the tuition rate for the 2022-2023 school year at $8,800.
Second?
Second it.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, motion carries. We need to approve the date and time for the tax rate hearing.
So a little bit of backstory there. Typically, that's done in August, and it's in some relation or a direct relation in terms of proximity to your regular board meeting in August. So our next board meeting is August 16th. I believe last year, we just started the regular board meeting right after the tax rate hearing at the same time, 6:30 PM on the regular board meeting date and time. I don't see any reason that we would change from that. So that would be my recommendation. Although I do believe last year we gave some sort of walkthrough at 5:30 PM that was kind of voluntary. If our patrons would have liked to have walked through facilities before the hearing. So we can still do that at 5:30 if you're interested in doing that.
Very good. Action items, I need a motion.
I move that we have the tax rate, the annual tax rate hearing after the next, prior to the next meeting at August 16th, 2022.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, motion carries. The announcements, next regular meeting will be August 16th. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session, assuming we don't have anything else for discussion. Who wants to read it?
I'll do it. I think I should do this. I think I should do it, I move that we adjourn to closed session for discussion of personnel matter, section 610.021, 1 legal, 3 personnel, and 13 personnel records, RSMO, and student .06.
I'll second.
All right. Second, roll call vote. Brett,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Helmi,
Yes.
Mark. Yes. And I am a yes. We are now in closed session. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
I want to do that.